All right, so we're going to do this next one. This is lab 2.3 countdown, and we're asked to write a function that takes in one integer parameter and prints a countdown both horizontally and vertically. This is a more challenging problem, but I think we can do it using that same pattern that we've been talking about, the accumulator pattern. And the key is that we're going to look for kind of how could we accumulate one line. And if we could accumulate the one line, then I think we could do all right, because as soon as we got one line to work, we could easily do the other one, right? So we might do something like this. So we're going to start with I think a while loop. Since I want the count to go down, I'm going to use a while loop. I could use a for loop, but let's just change it up a little bit, use a while loop. So we know we have this function that's going to give us a parameter called num, okay? And num is an integer that's going to be passed from the actual function. So it'll be something like, I guess I'll just write it out, def countdown, and then num is this input value that we're going to use to tell us what number we're going to start our countdown at, right? And in this case, num would be 4. Okay, so I think inside this, we're going to create a little while loop, and we're going to say while num is greater than 0. All right, while num is greater than 0, what I really want to do with this is I want to create like a string. Maybe I'll call my string line, and I'm just going to make it be an empty string. There's nothing in it. So this is an empty string, and line just starts out as 0. Okay, remember, I'm just focusing on just can I get it to do the first line. So I start out with an empty string. Num, I know, kind of in my little example here, num is going to start as 4. So actually, I want my empty string to start before I do my while loop. So while num is greater than 0, I'm going to start my countdown. Okay, every time I go through the loop, I'm going to say line gets added to it whatever num is. Now, the only problem is that right now, num is an integer, and line is a string. So to be able to add those two together, I really want to concatenate, right? So I don't want num to be an integer value. I want to cast that num as a string. Does that kind of make sense? So I'm going to add that to line. So if I think about like what this is going to do during my program, line's going to start off as an empty string, and then after the first iteration, it's going to cancel that out, or take away that old string, and it's going to make a new string with the character of 4. Okay. Once I've done that, I'm going to subtract 1 from the num. Num minus equals 1. Now num is still an integer value, so I can just decrease it by 1, and that makes num started, my program as a 4, and now I have decreased it by 1 and made it a 3. It goes back up to the top, it checks. Is num, which is now 3, greater than 0? Yeah, okay, it is. So go in and add whatever num is now to line. Well, line is now the character 4. I cast num as a string. It's going to cross out this old string of 4. It's going to take whatever line was and add it to the new num, or add the new num to it, and now I have a 43. Then it comes down to this spot here. I take 1 away from num, and I get down to 2. I go back up to the top of the while loop. I check, is num greater than 0? Yep. Add it to line, and then take 1 away again. Num is now 1. Add it to the 4, 3, 2, 1. And now I have this line, and I can go like, hey, that's great. I now have it. When I take 1 away again from num, it becomes 0. This condition is no longer true. So it ends, and I can print line. Okay? Now that gets me through the first one. The next thing I need to do is I really need to do the whole thing over again, except now I need to start num at 1 lower. So the same kind of pattern. Okay? So I'll make another video kind of expanding on this, but that's the basic idea. Before you jump to the next video, you should try to see if you could figure out how to do it on your own. I'll give you a hint. You're going to need another variable. You're going to need another variable to store basically a copy of num at the beginning. All right, good luck.